Definitely want to talk about Brian Kelly because a lot of us don't know who Brian Kelly is. We haven't had a chance to really hear from Coach Kelly outside of his opening press conference. And if I'm not mistaken, that was December the 1st, right?
Look, I respect him. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really long time. He is not going to be peer pressured into doing a thing he doesn't want to do.
That is very true.
I respect that. He's like, I'm going to tell you about this stuff when I want to tell you about this stuff. And I'm okay with that.
So we haven't heard from him in like a month and a half. So can you get Kelly 8 ready, Mario? Because a lot of people just want to know, hey, Coach, what have you been doing? What have you been up to? We haven't seen you in 6 weeks. Not that he owes anybody anything, but it's a different approach than we've seen from other LSU coaches. So here's Brian Kelly and what he's been doing over the last month and a half.
First and foremost, it was, for us getting the entire staff, through HR, getting all of those, that process completed, which, obviously doesn't happen overnight. And, finishing up the hires, we had some coaches that went through the playoffs and we had to take care of those things. And then it really was about developing some relationships with coaches and staff meetings. We've only had a couple of staff meetings. I would say the first few weeks, it was hit the ground running and recruit with not a whole lot of dialogue other than them having the experience, certainly being attuned to what our interviews were like in terms of what my expectations were, and getting out on the road and putting together a class in a very short order. And then the rest has been observing our players in strength conditioning. Jake Flint, our strength coach, has taken the lead there. And so then our coaches have gradually started to have dinners with them, get a chance to know our players a little bit better. And then, we've been now starting to meet as staffs and get ready as we put together our offense, defense, and special teams playbook, nomenclature, terminology, things of that nature.
It is wild now in college football, Riz, when you get hired this late, you have a lot to catch up with. Like, it's not like it used to be when you only had one signing day and there was no transfer portal and you kind of had a process and you could kind of take your time in that process. But as he mentioned, like, they had to hire a brand new staff because he completely cleaned house.
Yep.
I mean, not just the coaching staff. They kept one coach. I mean, it was a lot. It was a wait staff. I mean, there was people that were involved in the program that he cleaned house. He brought his own people in, which that happens. It just hasn't happened here, but it happens in a lot of places. And then certainly you've got to fill out a class. You have to get in the transfer portal. You have to figure out who on your team's leaving. It's a lot.
I feel like they were on a dating app and they connected and they started messaging each other, and now they're just like finally meeting and they're having to do that awkward dance around each other where they're just trying to figure each other out. But it's I don't know, I feel like it's very close to the season. It's a weird time to figure each other out. And I know it happens, like you said, but I don't know. I just
well, now that's how it is. I mean, Florida's going through the same thing. USC's going through the same thing.
It feels stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at it, it feels stressful to me. But he sounded like he felt really good about it.
He's had a lot of time to think about it. But it is funny you mentioned like a dating app. There is the Air app, which is a dating app basically for transfers.
That's awesome.
It is called the Air app, and we had the founder on, I think, what was that, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, he was on the show.
Like yeah, he was an Australian punter from SMU. He came up with the app, and it literally, you swipe right, and you match. And these coaches get on it, and they can filter what they're looking for. Like if they want a 5'10", 220-pound fullback, that's what it could happen. That's what they do, right? They search it. You put in your filters like third down back. I mean, it breaks it down to that, and it's a dating app. That's what it is. You're matching.
Kind of weird, but kind of awesome at the same time.
Can you imagine being in bed? You finally get home from a long day of breaking down film and doing football stuff, and your wife's like, "What are you doing?" She sees you swiping right on college athletes.
Very sus.
Is so it's like. I get it. The idea is incredible, but also just the way when you're describing it to me sounds very, very sus.
It feels like something else you should hire Danny for.
I feel like Danny would be very good at a dating app.
Nobody swipes right like Danny does. There's no question about that. Okay, so we did mention that Brian Kelly did completely clean house. Well, here's what he was looking for in the staff that he brought into LSU.
As I looked at putting together a staff and assembling a a staff. We're in the SEC, and we're in the toughest division in the SEC. You need experienced coaches. You need coaches that know what winning is about and how difficult it is to win in this conference. And then you need to recruit. And if you check those 3 boxes, those are the things that I was looking for in putting a staff together today.
And obviously went all over the place for his staff. Did hire some people like Brian Polian, who we'll talk about a little bit later, people that he knows, people he is familiar with. And Kerry Cooks is another guy that has been with him before. Matt House is someone that LSU actually has talked with before with a different coaching staff. And so it's finally complete. Feels like it's plenty enough time for spring football. I mean, he
hasn't worked with a lot of these coaches, though, right?
Right.
Okay. So he's worked with 3 of them?
Yes.
So it is. It's a lot of dancing around and getting to know each other.
And I was thinking about this yesterday. Normally, that would make me really nervous because you like continuity, you like chemistry, you like all those things. But really in college athletics, because of the transfer portal, I don't feel like that's as big of a deal anymore.
Yeah.
And my mind went to Auburn men's hoops, right? That's the team that had a losing record overall and in the SEC last year. What do they do? Well, they get Jabari Smith, so they get your 5-star recruit, which certainly LSU football has, and they couple it with people from the portal. They get Kessler from North Carolina. They get Katie Johnson from Georgia, and it's worked. Like, there was no awkward stage.
Yeah.
There was no, like we're talking about, the first time you meet, hey, what's your favorite color? there was none of that, and it's worked. And look at LSU women's hoops. The team that won 9 games last year. Here comes Kim Mulkey. They've won 24 games. Obviously, like, her resume speaks for itself, and they had a couple of pieces left over from a 9-win team, couple it with a couple of people from the transfer portal, and it worked. So I don't think chemistry and continuity, like having established relationships, matters as much in college athletics like it used to.
Well, and 2, it sounds like with every single one of these hires, there were like some very specific things he wanted in each coach. I mean, he mentioned recruiting in all of them, being a good communicator, having past experience. So it's like he made sure that all of those hires checked the boxes he wanted. And I think that that's why it doesn't matter as much that he hasn't worked with them before.
And you still have time.
Absolutely. But when he went down the list and he talked about every single coach, I think he used the same words for every single coach, like good recruiter, good at communicating, good leader.
So he's looking for a template.
Yes, has won before, has led before. And he just made sure that they all checked those boxes, and he was like, and we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. And the offensive coordinator, BK is an offensive coach, so the offensive coordinator, obviously somebody he has a very deep relationship with, so he feels comfortable there. Almost like Matt House, you're going to be the head coach of the defense. Because, when I first got to LSU, that's what Jimbo was. Jimbo was the head coach of the offense. Like, we didn't see defensive coaches. We didn't see Coach Saban as much. Like, once the initial team meeting was over, Nick went into the DB room. Jimbo came in, and he was our head coach, and it kind of feels like that as well. All right, one last one from BK on his first initial thoughts when he met the LSU football team.
We're not ready to play. If we have to play tomorrow, we're not ready yet, but we will be ready. It's going to be a process for us. I like the fact that, like many teams that I've had in the past, at this time, this is the 5th time I've done this, is that there's a want to. They recognize and they are aware of what they've done the last 2 years. And cumulatively, it's been 500, and that's not good enough. And so there is a desire to want to change that. And so there is that want to. Now, we've got a lot of things that we've got to work on to be the championship program that we want to be. But I guess like anything else, as long as we have a group of players that are committed to what we want to do here, we're pretty confident that we can get them there come opening day.
LSU football team definitely does have some work to do. As he mentioned, you're 500 over the last 2 seasons, and I had a lot more to add to this, but when Hunt Palmer throws into the chat, what do you 2 know about dating apps?
Absolutely
when y'all met your
nothing.
spouses, you had a flip phone.
That is true.
I didn't even have a flip phone. I had like the brick Nokia.
I was going to say, I had maybe a Razor phone.
You definitely had a Razor when you met Kevin.
For
so,
sure.
Hunt, solid point. I never thought that Hunt Palmer would be cooler than me, but in this moment, Hunt definitely is. So well played.